Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
I'm Gary Franchi here at the White House, where the Trump administration just dropped the hammer on California. Federal agents are kicking in doors right now in what might be the biggest fraud bust in American history. $24 billion vanished into the thin air while homeless Americans rotted on the streets. And folks, the names coming out of this investigation, you won't believe who is getting rich off your tax dollars. Now, here's why this matters to you. No matter where you live, every single dollar stolen from these homeless programs, that's your money. That's money that came out of your paycheck. And while career politicians like Gavin Newsom were giving press conferences about compassion and spending, the rats were raiding the cheese. We're talking about fake bank statements showing $160 million that didn't exist. We're talking about Beverly Hills residents living large while actual homeless veterans slept under bridges. This is not just California's problem. This is the swamp in action, and President Trump said he'd drain it. Now you're watching it happen in real time. The question is, how deep does this go, and who else is about to get a knock on their door? You know, watching this fraud unfold really makes you think about one thing. Are you prepared for when the system fails? $24 billion stolen while homeless Americans got nothing? If the people in charge can't be trusted with your tax dollars, you sure can't trust them to have your back in a crisis. That's why I trust My Patriot Supply. They're America's #1 preparedness company with over 3 million customers who refuse to depend on a broken system. Right now at preparewithgary.com, their best-selling 4-week emergency food supply comes with a free additional week. That's 5 weeks of security for your family. While the fraudsters were stealing billions, smart Americans were getting ready. Go to preparewithgary.com right now, because when things fall apart, the prepared, well, they survive. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what is happening on the ground in California right now. The footage coming out is absolutely incredible. Federal law enforcement not playing games anymore. This is the Trump administration's anti-fraud crackdown going from policy to action. Watch this. This is the first clip that shows what it looks like when the feds mean business. Federal law enforcement conducting raids on suspects tied to this massive California healthcare fraud scandal. This is not a press conference. This is boots on the ground. Watch.
And a Fox News alert, we're just learning that this morning federal law enforcement conducting raids across Southern California targeting alleged healthcare fraudsters. William Lajeunesse has more from Covina, California. That's just east of L.A. You've been on this story for a while. What happened?
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, this is the first takedown for the new White House Fraud Task Force. They arrested 2 owners of 2 hospices here in greater Los Angeles. They're accused of collectively stealing about $16 million from taxpayers. And this money was intended, right, for compassionate end-of-life care for the terminally ill. Here's some video we shot earlier today of the FBI making those arrests of a husband and wife. He a doctor, she a nurse, co-owners of the St. Francis Palliative Care Hospice in Glendale. And what they were doing was this: admitting people who were not qualified for hospice, but billed the government as if they were. About $30,000 per patient. And when the benefits ran out, they dropped them. Here's the kicker. Nationally, 80% of adults admitted, or people admitted to hospice, die, and usually in the first few weeks. Here, almost nobody died. After 8 months, 97% left alive.
They've been bilking the taxpayers for over $7 million, close to $8 million, and it's all total fraudulent hospice services. They were signing up people who are not terminally ill. They were forging the documents, the medical records, and they were collecting taxpayer dollars. And they've been charged, and this morning they were arrested.
Here's another arrest down in Topanga Hospice. And here they were paying kickbacks to the patients, giving them $600 a month in an envelope. That's because they were getting reimbursed from the feds about $6,000 a month. Now, they are also paying marketers to find seniors and take their Medicare card. They bilked the government for about $8 million, not eligible, and they were not terminally ill.
The name of this endeavor is, Project Never Say Die, because the folks who are in the nursing and the hospice facilities owned by this couple and their family don't seem to ever pass away.
So the feds are here for a reason. California was giving out thousands of hospice licenses to people who are unqualified, no oversight, and of course taxpayers have been paying for it ever since.
American taxpayers deserve justice. That's the line right there. And that's exactly what President Trump promised. No more looking the other way. No more slaps on the wrist. This administration is putting handcuffs on the people who stole from you. But here is where it gets really interesting. Wait until you hear the actual numbers involved in this scheme. This next clip features U.S. Attorney laying out exactly where Gavin Newsom's $24 billion actually went. And folks, the details are absolutely damning. Listen to just how deep this fraud goes. Watch.
Of where billions of California tax dollars intended to solve homelessness ended up. California has spent more than $24 billion over the last 5 years with little to no progress in solving our homelessness epidemic. California state officials failed to provide meaningful oversight over the individuals who received most of these funds, and they had little to no answers to the public's demand for accountability. Well, that accountability starts today. Today we are announcing significant developments into our investigation. We're making public 2 criminal cases relating to 2 separate real estate developers who were involved in misappropriating millions of state funds intended to combat homelessness. This morning, federal agents arrested Cody Holmes, a 31-year-old Beverly Hills resident and the former CFO of Shangri-La Industries, a downtown LA-based developer of affordable housing, for defrauding the Home Key program that is administered by the state of California. The program awarded grant money, which included federal tax dollars, for specific projects to convert motels into housing for the homeless and to operate the units. By April of 2022, Shangri-La Industries, where Holmes was the CFO, had co-applied with multiple California cities to convert numerous properties in California, including a location in Thousand Oaks. The state asked for proof that the company had the financial capacity to build all the projects. In response, Holmes and Shangri-La knowingly submitted fake bank statements which claimed to show that the developer had about $160 million on deposit. Not only were the bank statements fake, our investigation shows that Shangri-La and its affiliates had nowhere near the amount of money they claimed they had in the fake bank statements.
Did you catch that? Fake bank statements claiming $160 million in deposits that didn't exist. A 31-year-old Beverly Hills resident, the CFO of a company called Shangri-La Industries, arrested this morning. They submitted completely fraudulent documents to steal money meant for homeless Americans. And he laid it out perfectly. California had little to no progress despite $24 billion, and now we know why. And President Trump's been saying all along, the federal government can't do everything. Listen to what he just explained, because this next clip captures President Trump explaining exactly why this kind of fraud happens when Washington tries to manage everything. This is the philosophy behind the crackdown, and it's pure common sense. Listen.
Roberto Samity walked out of Brooklyn federal court in silence after his arraignment. He's one of 4 people now facing charges in a corruption investigation tied to the city-funded homeless shelter organization, Braggs. Federal prosecutors say Samity and another defendant, Ronald Jean Torellis, stole more than $1 million from the taxpayer-backed nonprofit. They now both face several charges, including wire fraud and embezzlement. The indictment, unsealed Tuesday, drawing swift reaction from Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
We'll definitely be looking into these, because any allegation, especially if it's being substantiated, of improper action and behavior is one that has to be followed up on.
Prosecutors say the shelter leaders steered contracts worth millions of dollars to favored vendors controlled by Eduardo St. Fort and Miguel Jorge in exchange for bribes and kickbacks. Jorge was also arraigned Tuesday. St. Fort will be arraigned at a later date. Both face program bribery and related charges. The indictment comes as investigators also probe whether City Council member Farrah Lewis and her sister Debbie Lewis, an aide to Governor Kathy Hochul, accepted bribes connected to city funding for the nonprofit, according to a search warrant viewed by the Associated Press. The sisters were not among those taken into custody. A spokesperson for the city council responding in a statement saying the council takes any potential misconduct extremely seriously. New Yorkers deserve confidence in their government. It is essential that the federal investigation proceed fairly and expeditiously to bring this matter to a resolution. Pix 11 News reached out to Councilmember Lewis's office for comment and is waiting to hear back.
There it is, folks. The president said it plain as day. We have to take care of one thing: military protection. Let the states handle their own programs. When the federal government sends money to California with no oversight, this is what happens. Fraudsters get rich, homeless stay homeless, but you pay the bill. But now here's the game changer. Vice President Vance just swore in the man who's going to hunt down every single fraudster. This is the incredible moment. Vice President J.D. Vance swearing in Colin McDonald as Assistant Attorney General for National Fraud Enforcement. And what Vance says about the mission should send chills down the spine of every criminal who's been stealing from the American people. Watch.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up, but it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing: military protection.
Did you hear what Vance said? No fraud is too small or too big to look away from. He said the DOJ has been turning a blind eye to fraud under a certain dollar amount for years. Well, that all ends now. This is about restoring social trust, making sure your tax dollars go to Americans who actually need help, not fraudsters getting rich off of your generosity. This is the anti-fraud mission in full force. So let's put this all together, because what you just witnessed is historic. This is what you just watched unfold. President Trump set the policy. States handle their programs. Federal government policies protects the nation. The fraud task force identified the problem. $24 billion gone with zero accountability under Newsom's watch. Colin McDonald was just sworn in with a mandate to pursue every fraud case, big or small. And now federal agents are physically raiding locations and arresting the people who stole from homeless Americans. This is plan to problem to action. The swamp creatures thought they were untouchable. Beverly Hills fraudsters living large on your money. Not anymore. This is what America First looks like right now. So the Trump administration promised to drain the swamp and hold the corrupt accountable. Well, today, you watch that promise become reality in California. Federal raids, arrests, a new fraud enforcement chief with unlimited scope. And this is just the beginning. How many more states have been bleeding taxpayer money to fraudsters while politicians look the other way? Well, I guess we're going to find out. If you want to stay ahead of every major development in this story and every story the mainstream media tries to bury, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and share this video with everyone who needs to see what real accountability looks like. I'm Gary Franchi from the White House. As always, stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.